Hi, I'm John, and I'm one of the physical therapists for the cardiac rehab program at Newton-Wellesley Hospital. Today we're going to do a vinyasa yoga, and this is for somebody who perhaps is a cardiac rehab patient. This would be maybe an intermediate to an advanced level yoga practice. But if you've done yoga before, you actually might find some of these yoga techniques simpler for you to do. I'm just going to go over a few exceptions to people participating in this type of yoga. First of all, if you've had open heart surgery and you are still healing from your sternotomy and have sternal precautions from your surgeon, I'm going to ask for you to refrain from this type of yoga because we'll be using a lot of upper body and we don't want anything to damage your sternal incision. Secondly, if you are not able to stand on one leg and keep your balance, then this might not be a great yoga practice for you. And thirdly, you should be able to get off the floor because you're going to need, we don't want you to be stuck on the floor at home as we're doing this. And the importance of yoga is we don't want you to strain. You want to keep breathing during this yoga and especially no holding your breath because if you have issues with blood pressure, we don't want to create any low blood pressure scenarios for you. One last thing for yoga is that we ask that you maybe try not to eat 1 to 2 hours before your yoga practice. Again, vinyasa yoga is a type of yoga that makes the movement and breath to attain balance of the mind and body while improving flexibility, strength, stability, and focus. So we start this yoga practice in a lotus position, which is with the legs folded as I'm sitting here on the floor. Typically we'll put the index finger and thumb together. But if you're not able to sit on the floor like this, if you don't have the flexibility in your hips, you can always practice by sitting in a chair or sitting on a yoga block to raise your pelvis up off the floor so that you have more flexibility with your hips. All right, so we're going to start with with a gentle practice. We'll start from the head and work our way down. And you're just going to start with your head and we're going to look down towards our knees and look up towards the ceiling. Look down towards your knees and back up to the ceiling. And as you're practicing this, remember to breathe with each movement. The next movement is going to be looking over your right shoulder and over your left shoulder, back over to your right shoulder, and back over to your left shoulder, and back to center. Next, we're going to side bend. You're going to take the right ear to the right shoulder, left ear to the left shoulder, right ear to the right shoulder, left ear to the left shoulder, and back to center. And then we're going to do neck rolls. And so you're going to look down at your feet, and then you're going to roll your head in a clockwise fashion 2 times around. And you're going to go at a pace that's good for you, and at a pace which you can breathe. And then we'll go in the opposite direction, 2 rolls. And as you're performing this neck roll, you may notice that your neck clicks or cracks, and that's okay as long as it's not painful. If it is painful, we ask that you either stop or modify the activity by rolling the neck less. Okay. Next motion is going to be yoga for the eyes. And so just sitting here gently, we're going to move the eyes to sharpen their focus and their range of motion. So looking at my eyes here, I'm looking straight at the camera, and then you're going to go looking up towards the ceiling, down towards the floor, up towards the ceiling, down towards the floor, and back to center. And then with your eyes, you're going to look far right, look far left, look far right, look far left, and back to center. So again, it's just the eyes that are moving, no other parts of the body. And now we're going to do clocks with the eyes, and so you're going to look far up, look far right, look down, far left, look up, and back to center. And then back in the opposite direction with the eyes, looking down, look far right, look up, look far left, look down, and back to center. All right, and then to sharpen the focus of the eyes, you're going to take the right hand with your index finger pointing up. You're going to look at your fingernail, and you're going to bring that finger, focusing on that finger back to your nose. You're going to go a little cross-eyed, bringing that back out in front of you and focusing out at the wall. Focus back at your fingernail, bring it back to your nose, back out, focusing on the wall again with your eyes. Focus on the fingernail one last time, bringing it to your nose, sharpening that focus, that convergence of your eyes, and back out, and then focus on the wall in front. If you can do that without blinking for those 3 times, that's great. Okay? Now we're just going to shrug the shoulders a few times to loosen up the shoulders. All right? And then you're going to put your left arm out, put your right hand over your left, lock the fingers, and if you're flexible in your chest, you can stretch out your hands like this. Unroll, put the left hand out over the right, and do the same motion to balance. Okay, and roll it back out. All right, next we're going to turn on our mats. All right, so you're going to be lengthwise to your mat. You're going to stretch out your legs, and you're going to take your arms under your knees and fold it like this, and then you're going to rock your foot in clockwise fashion 5 times, and then go counterclockwise 5 times. Same thing with the left. Rock 5 times clockwise, and then 5 times counterclockwise. Right, stretching out the body on the mat, feet pointed forward. We're going to just pump the ankles up and down 5 times. And then crank the toes 5 times. You might hear your toes crack as you do this. Again, just loosening up every single joint from head to toe in this stage of yoga. All right, the next movement is called yoga for the toes. So just like before where we cross the hands and lock the fingers, you're going to cross your feet, so put the right foot over the left, and you're going to do yoga for the toes, so you're going to try to lock the toes within each other, one over the next, just like you would with your hands. And sometimes it takes a little bit of practice or coordination to lock all those toes and joints together, and then give them a nice squeeze. And then when you're ready, switch legs, put your left over your right, and again, try to interlock those toes. To work on the small intermuscular muscles within the foot, the small muscles. And give them a good squeeze. Alright, when you're ready, we're going to stand up on the mats. And we're going to bring our hands straight up overhead, and we're going to fold the body in half. As you're folding the body in half, you might try to reach for those toes, but not be able to reach quite yet. That's okay. The body's still warming up, so you might have some tight muscles. But the important piece is that you're breathing through this stretch, not holding the breath. All right, and when you're ready, we're going to go to downward facing dog, so hands in front, feet back. And this is also called mountain pose. And you're trying to feel stretching your calves, and feel stretching your hands and shoulders as you're holding this pose. But again, breathing, no holding the breath. And after a few breaths, you're going to come down, put your body in contact with the floor. All right, so chin's on the floor, shoulders are on the floor, hands are on the floor, your pelvis is on the floor. Knees and feet are on the floor, and then you're going to come up into cobra. All right, if you don't have this kind of flexibility in your spine to come up like this, you can always just come into a Sphinx position. This is kind of a modification for this. But if you're able to come up like this, again, make sure that you're able to breathe. No holding your breath during this pose. And again, try to look up towards the ceiling to get that extra stretch. Come back down onto the floor. Pop back up into downward facing dog. Feel that stretch to the calves, in the back, in the arms and shoulders, and the feet together. Reaching down towards the toes. Unfold the body, hands overhead, hands to heart, hands to side, and then release them. All right. And now we're going to go through a series of 8 different poses to help again with just that general warm up with our bodies to gain more flexibility and to work on our movement. All right. So again, we're going to bring our hands straight up overhead, fold the body in half, reach for those toes. Continue to breathe. And from this position, you're going to go into a kneeling pose. So you put your right leg back and your left leg forward. And this is called salutation to the sun. All right, and you're going to basically try to arch your back and look up at the ceiling. Still continuing to breathe. If you lose your balance in this position, you can always reach down to the floor to refix your balance, or you can have a chair in your body, just in case. All right? But from here, we're going to bring our left foot back, come back into downward facing dog or mountain pose, give ourselves a stretch, whole body in contact with the floor, and come back up into cobra. Again, remembering that breath. Back down to the floor, and into downward facing dog. Feel the stretch. Left foot forward, right feet forward, so feet are together. In that folded position, notice that I'm able to reach more towards my toes now as I'm starting to gain more flexibility. Bring your hands overhead, hands to heart, hands to side. All right, we're going to repeat that salutation to the sun, but on the other side of the body. So hands straight up overhead. Fold the body in half. And this time we're going to put the right foot forward, left foot back. So you'll be in that lunge position. Once you have your posture and your balance, hands at your side, arch the back. Remembering to breathe. Come back together. Put your hands on the floor with your right foot back, and you're going to come into that mountain pose. And downward facing dog. Again, remembering to breathe, while holding your breath. Put your feet, whole body in contact with the floor, and come up into your sphinx or your cobra position. Body back down to the floor. Come back up to mountain pose. And this time, right foot forward, left foot together. Fold the body. This time I can reach my toes. Reach straight up overhead, hands to heart, hands to side. To balance out the salutation to the sun, we're also going to do a salutation to the moon. So bring your hands straight up overhead. Fold the body in half. Reach for those toes. And again, this time we're going to put the left foot forward, right foot back into that lunge position. This time, instead of your hands being at your side, you're going to put your hands to your chest, and you're going to reach up overhead like a crescent moon. Only one fold. Put your hands to the mat. Bring the left foot back. Again, into mountain pose. Remember to breathe. No holding your breath. Bring your body in contact with the floor. And come up into sphinx or cobra position. Body in contact with the floor. Back into mountain pose. This time, left foot forward, right foot together. Fold the body in half. Reach straight up overhead. Hands to your heart. Hands to your side. Alright, so good salutation to the moon on the left hand side. Now we'll repeat to the right hand side. So arms straight up overhead. Fold the body in half. And you're going to put your right foot forward, left foot back into that lunge. Once you find your stability, you're going to bring your hands to your heart, and you're going to perform the crescent moon overhead. And back down, hands in contact with the floor, feet back, come into mountain pose. Now, as you're performing the salutation to the sun and salutation to the moon, if you don't have the same flexibility as I do, that's okay. Just arch your back to your ability. Into mountain pose. Whole body in contact with the floor. And to your sphinx or your cobra position. Body in contact with the floor. Back into mountain pose. Reach with those arms, push back with those legs to feel the stretch. Right foot forward, left foot forward, fold the body in half. And fold the body straight up overhead. Hands to heart, and hands to your side. Alright, the next phase of our vinyasa yoga is we will do a kind of like a strengthening series. So we're going to go into what's called Warrior One pose. Alright, and so you're going to start with your right foot forward and left leg back into what's called almost like a lunge, but this is called Warrior One pose. Alright, so you can try to get that front knee into that 90-90 position. And we're going to hold this for about a count of 5 breaths. So depending on how quickly or slowly we're breathing, you might perform a little quicker or slower. But you might feel the leg shake. Now, if you can't hold this position or you have any pain, it might be better to not bend the knees deeply. Okay? But if you're able to tolerate that lunge as much as you can. And then transition into what's called the Warrior Two pose. So your right hand forward and your left hand back. Still looking straight overhead again for 5 breaths. And then we're going to transition to Warrior Three pose for 5 breaths. So this is both hands together, almost like we're holding a sword like a warrior. And as we're continuing to breathe, you might feel that leg shake a little more. You're going to put your right hand down by your right foot. You're going to reach up overhead with your left hand and try to look up at the ceiling with your left hand. If you lose your balance, that's okay. This is a practice for balance as well. But continuing to breathe, no straining. A lot of people grimace in this pose, so you should try to smile. And after those 5 breaths, you're going to bring both hands to the floor, bring your feet back together, and we're going to go into mountain pose. And the whole body in contact with the floor. Come up into your sphinx or your cobra position. Back into contact with the floor. And back into mountain pose. And right foot forward. Left foot together. Unfold the body. Reach up overhead. Hands to heart and hands to side. So we did right foot forward, now we're going to do left foot forward, right foot back. Alright, we saw our Warrior One pose. Again, so if you can lunge forward like this, great. If your knee can't tolerate that position, if it's okay to straighten or not lunge as long as I am. Again, we're going to hold this for about 5 breaths. Work on that strengthening portion again for the legs. And after 5 breaths, you're going to transition to your Warrior Two pose. Alright, for 5 breaths. And then bring your hands together for Warrior Three, holding that sword. Lunging forward for 5 breaths. And then taking your left hand down to your left foot, reach your right hand up towards the ceiling, looking straight up overhead. Again, if you lose your balance here, that's okay. All right, and then bring both hands down to the mat. Bring your left foot forward into your mountain pose. And full body in contact with the floor. Come up into cobra position or sphinx position. Full body back into the floor and back into mountain pose. This time left foot forward, right foot together. Fold the body in half. Again, you might notice more flexibility in your body. Then straight up overhead, hands to heart, hands to your side. Alright, so we're going to continue this strengthening series. Right foot forward. This time for our warrior one pose, I want you to try to step backwards onto your left toes, so almost like you're on a pair of railroad tracks or skis, and hold that lunge or hold that warrior one pose here for 5 breaths. And then you can transition to your warrior two pose, again for 5 breaths. And then to warrior three pose, holding that sword for 5 breaths. You might feel the legs shake or tremble. And this time we're going to do a humble warrior pose, so you're going to lock the fingers behind your back. Stretch out your hands and you're going to bow down towards your right foot. And stretch the hands behind your back to your tolerance. Again, continuing to breathe. Unlock the fingers, put the hands on the floor. Bring the feet back. And back into mountain pose. Put the body in contact with the floor. Come up into cobra or your sphinx position. Back into contact with the floor and into mountain pose. Right foot forward, left foot together. Fold your body in half. Hands straight up overhead. Hands to heart. Hands to your side. You may also notice as you're doing these different poses that one side of your body might be stronger or more flexible than the other. And that's okay, we all have asymmetries in our body, and if we've had old or previous injuries to our body, or you might be more dominant on one leg or one arm versus the other. Put the left foot forward, put the right foot back into a lunge. Again, into warrior one, like we're standing on a set of railroad tracks or skis. Holding that pose for 5 breaths. You're going to transition to your warrior two pose with your left hand forward and your right hand back for 5 breaths. And when you're ready, bring both hands together for warrior three pose. Holding that sword out in front, 5 breaths. And when you're ready, bring both hands behind, lock the fingers. Stretch the chest and bow like a humble warrior. Down towards your left foot. When you are ready, you can put both hands to the floor. Bring your left foot back to your right. Come into mountain pose. And then put your body in contact with the floor. And you come up into sphinx or into cobra position. Put your body in contact with the floor and back into mountain pose. This time you're going to bring your left foot forward, right foot together, fold the body in half, unfold the body, hands overhead, hands to your heart, and hands to your side. We're going to go through one more series of these warrior poses. So you're going to start with your right foot forward, and your left foot back into warrior one. Again for 5 breaths. And transition into warrior breaths. Focus on the breath, not on the muscle strain. And hands together like warrior three. And with this one, we'll end again with this side angle pose, right hand to the floor, left hand towards the ceiling, looking up at the ceiling for 5 breaths. And bring your hands back to the floor, bring your right foot back into mountain pose. Full body in contact with the floor. Come up into your Sphinx or Cobra position. Body back down to the floor and back to mountain pose. Right foot forward, left foot together. Fold the body in half. Unfold the body. Hands to heart. Hands to your side. And for our last set of warrior poses, we'll put your left foot forward and your right foot back. Come into warrior one. Hold this for 5 breaths. The breath might be a little deeper now as you're straining. It might not be as gentle as before. And come into warrior two pose. And after 5 breaths, transition to warrior three. And counting those breaths after the 5th breath, put your left hand down to the floor, right hand up towards the ceiling, looking up at the ceiling. And after 5 breaths, bring your hands to the floor, feet back. Come into a mountain pose. Whole body in contact with the floor. Come up into your Sphinx or your Cobra position. Back down in contact with the floor. Into mountain pose. Left foot forward, right foot together. Fold the body in half. Unfold the body, hands up overhead, hands to your heart, and hands to your side. All right, if you're thirsty, it's okay to have some water during this point with your workout. But if you're ready to come to the next position, we're going to stand with our feet together. I'll pose this way, we'll stand with our feet together. You're going to bring your hands straight up overhead. You're going to grasp your left wrist with your right hand, with an attempt to keep your arms straight, not bent. Okay, arms straight. You're going to try to side bend. All right, I want you to try to look under your left armpit as you're doing this. If you feel the elbows bend, try to extend those elbows to make your body as straight as possible. As you take in a breath, you'll feel those ribs expand and stretch. Come back straight overhead. Give those arms a short rest for a moment. Get your stance. And when you're ready, hands straight up overhead. Grasp the right arm with your left hand. And you're going to side bend towards your left, looking under your right armpit. Try to keep those arms straight. Feel that stretch with each breath to your ribs and to maybe your abdomen. And after a few breaths, come back to center and hands to your side. All right, our next pose is going to be the chair pose. All right, so if you were able to come into a squatting position, then you can do this without a chair. If you're worried that your legs would give way, you can always put a chair behind you for this exercise. And so you're going to start with feet together. You're going to put hands straight up overhead, like we're calling a touchdown at a football game, and you're going to squat down with your knees together into that chair pose. All right, you should be trying to arch the back rather than flex forward. All right, you don't want to be hunched over and put extra pressure on your spine if you don't have to. And after 5 breaths, you want to come back into a standing position. There is no breath hold during this position. For For those of us who might be a little more advanced or more flexible, you can next try to do what's called a twisted chair pose. So feet are in the same position together, knees together. All right, you're going to come down into that chair pose. You're going to take your your left elbow, and hook it onto your right knee, hands to your heart, and you're looking up over your right shoulder at the ceiling. Notice my body sways a little bit. That's okay, not everybody has perfect balance. But if you lose your balance, you can always touch the floor to kind of regain that balance, and then come back up to a standing position. To offer balance, we're going to do twisted chair pose one last time, but to the left. So feet together, knees together. Come into that squat. Take your right elbow, hook it onto your left knee, hands to your heart, and looking up over your left shoulder. And try to be here for close to 5 breaths. Again, breaths might be a little quicker or a little more shallow in this position because we don't have the diaphragm. And when you're ready, come back into a standing position. If you feel lightheaded or dizzy, take a short rest, or stand, or just walk for a little bit to get the blood to circulate. Okay? From here, we're going to perform some more balance tasks. So this is where you'll need to stand on one leg. And if you lose your balance, you might want to have a chair nearby just to grab onto for balance. And we're going to start by folding the body in half. And from this position here, you're going to come into your downward facing dog again. Or mountain pose. And you're going to put the whole body in contact with the floor. Come into your Sphinx or your cobra positions. Come back down to the floor, back into mountain pose. And from here, what we're going to do next is you're going to raise your left foot up in the air. All right, so you're on 3 limbs. Hold that for 5 breaths. And once you have your balance, bring that left foot forward. And we're going to attempt to stand on just this one leg. So find that balance. And we're going to do what's called basically the Superman pose. All right, so hands forward, one leg looking backwards. And again, find a point to focus on the floor. And after 5 breaths, you're going to bring your arms back. So it's like an airplane. So this is airplane pose. And after 5 breaths of this, you can transition by bringing your knees slowly up in the air like this. Hands to heart. And if you lose your balance, it's okay to put your foot down to correct yourself. And then you're going to put your right foot on your right knee. Your right foot on your left knee. And you're going to put your hands straight up overhead. This is called tree pose. Hold that for about 5 breaths. And when you're ready, you can bring your hands to your heart and put both feet onto the floor. Open the hands back overhead. Fold the body in half. You're going to come into your mountain pose. And stretching that body, feel the stretch in the calves and the back and the shoulders. Bring your body into contact with the floor. And come up into your Sphinx or cobra position. Put the body back down into the floor. Into your mountain pose. All right, now the last pose, we have the left foot up in the air, so now we're going to put the right foot in the air. Okay, and after 5 breaths, you're going to bring that right foot forward to find the center of balance. And we're going to come into our Superman pose. And you're going to reach forward with your hands and extend that left leg. And after 5 breaths, you're going to extend back into your airplane pose. And again, after 5 breaths, you're going to bring your hands to your heart, trying to balance on that one leg or raise the knee. And we'll stand here for 5 breaths. So you're going to put that left foot on the right knee. And you're going to reach your hands up overhead into your tree pose. And after 5 breaths, hands come down, feet to the floor. And again, you saw how I lost my balance. It's okay to come in contact with the floor. Maybe next time you do better with it. Put the hands straight up overhead. Fold the body in half. Hands forward, feet back into our mountain pose. And put your body in contact with the floor. Come up into your Sphinx or Cobra position. Body in contact with the floor, back into mountain pose. And from here, I'm going to challenge you to come onto your side. We're going to do like a side plank. Alright, so you're going to put your elbow on the floor, find a place of stability. Put your feet together. You're going to raise your hips. Alright, if you need that extra left hand for support, that's great. If you think you can extend your left hand and look up at the ceiling and maintain that pose, that's an advanced position. And a further position of challenge would be to try to raise your left leg in the air. Again, remembering to breathe, holding the breath. And after 5 breaths, you can bring everything down, gently lower your body to the floor. Roll onto your stomach. And you can lie here in your Sphinx pose. We're going to come to a plank. And then we're going to try to hold this position for 5 breaths. After 5 breaths, lower your belly to the floor. Turn onto your left side. Find that position of stability with your left elbow on the floor. Use your right hand on the mat. Try to bring your hips up off the floor. And you can do your side plank pose. And if you're more advanced, you can raise that right leg. Remembering to breathe throughout the series, holding your breath. Bring the leg down, gently lower yourself to the floor. And when you're ready, you're going to come into a seated position. And now we're going to just do some gentle, regular stretching to gain a little more flexibility. So just like a runner, we're going to sit on the floor. And if you can grab your toes, excellent. If you can't, the important piece is that you keep your knees straight. And you'll feel a stretch to the hamstring or behind the knee during this stretch. We recommend for stretching, you hold the pose for anywhere between 20 to 30 seconds. And after 20 seconds, we're going to switch legs. Right foot forward, fold the left foot into your body, and reach for those toes. And again, if you can't touch the toe, that's okay. The waist flexibility is different. Remembering to breathe throughout the stretch. If you're holding your breath, it's too strenuous, you need to back off on the stretch. After 20 to 30 seconds, you can bring your feet together like a butterfly and see if you can push your knees down towards the floor. You'll feel a stretch inside the groin area for this. One hip might be a little tighter than the other. And again, that's okay. That's just the asymmetries in our bodies. After 20 to 30 seconds, extend both legs. Keeping the knees straight, now we're going to try to fold the body If you can grab the toes, excellent. If you can't, that's okay. With practice, flexibility does improve. Holding this pose for again 20 to 30 seconds. Remembering to breathe. And if you feel a little winded at all or need a rest during the yoga series, it's okay to press pause and take that rest. All right, and then lastly, we're going to try to stretch our thighs. So if you are able, you're going to take your left foot and you're going to put it in towards the pelvis. You're going to fold the right knee, so if you don't have the flexibility in your knee, you might not be able to do this pose. This might be as far as some people get. If you're more flexible, you can always extend and lower your body to the floor like this, resting on your elbows. If you're even more flexible than this, then you can just go ahead and put your whole body onto the floor. And then the most advanced would be stretch those arms straight overhead. And you should feel a strong stretch to the thigh. Again, breathe in. If you're straining or holding your breath, you're overstretching. And after 20 to 30 seconds, you can come back up. And then we're going to switch legs. All right, so you can fold that right leg into your pelvis. Bend your left knee underneath you. And maybe this is as far as you go. If you're more flexible, you can come back onto your elbows to feel the stretch in the thigh. Or even more flexible, you can come flat onto your spine. And in the most flexible case, you can bring the arms straight up overhead. Again, remembering to breathe. It should be a strong stretch, but not painful. If it's painful, please come up from this pose. And after 20 to 30 seconds, you can unfold the body and come back up. Okay? All right, and then for our last few pieces of stability and breathing, we'll do a quick stretch. You're going to extend your legs forward. You're going to fold the left foot over the right, and you're going to twist a little bit. So hook your left elbow on the left knee, and you're going to twist your back, looking over your right shoulder. And when after 5 breaths, do the opposite. So you'll put the right foot over the left knee, right elbow on the right knee, and looking over your left shoulder, and remembering to breathe. All right, so now for our last piece of stability, you're going to sit with your knees bent at a 90-degree angle. You're going to lower yourself to the floor. Knees are still bent. I want you to raise your pelvis up, lock your fingers under your pelvis, and keep your pelvis raised up in the air. Still remembering to breathe, while holding your breath. And when you're ready, if you're stable in this position, you can try to extend your right leg and hold that for a count of 5 breaths. Again, remembering to breathe while holding your breath. If the pelvis sinks or sags, that tells you you have some instability in that pelvis, and you can address that by strengthening your pelvis. Bring the right foot down, keeping this bridge position. Extend the left leg, toes pointed towards the ceiling. Holding this position for 5 breaths. And when you're ready, you can put your feet back on the floor. Bring your pelvis down gently. And just lie there on the floor. And we're going to begin a cool down of our yoga workout. This position, my yoga instructor always taught me, this is called fish pose. All right, so I'm just going to lay there like a fish. All right, and basically we're going to try to just relax and turn off the muscles
And I want you to raise your left foot up in the air, hold it about 2 inches off the floor, and let it drop. Same thing with the right leg, hold it about 2 inches off the floor, and let it drop. Squeeze the buttocks together, sink the stomach down to the floor, and relax. Raise your left hand up off the floor for about 2 inches, and let it drop. And same thing with the right arm, 2 inches off the floor, and let it drop. You can roll your head from the right to the left. Just release any tension in the neck or the shoulders. Take both toes and both feet. Point them down, try to extend the legs, and relax. Do the same with the arms overhead, stretch overhead, and relax. And now try to do the arms and legs at the same time, and grow 1 to 2 inches. And relax. Bring your arms back to the side of your body. Find a relaxed position for you. All right, that might involve the legs rolling out, the arms or palms being up towards the ceiling. And I just want you to focus now on breathing. And notice the belly rises on the breath in and falls down on the breath out. The belly rises on the breath in and falls on the breath out. And again, the belly rises on the breath in and falls on the breath out. And I want you to do this for a count of 15 times at your own pace. Noticing the belly rise on the breath in and the belly fall on the breath out. After your 15 breaths, you can just lie there for a few more breaths. But instead of focusing on your breath, just return your awareness to the presence of the room and to how your body feels like it is in contact with the floor. You might feel more pressure on one side of your pelvis or one shoulder blade more than the other. And that's okay, that's just noticing how the body sits with its surroundings. When you're ready, open your eyes. Come back to a seated position. Fold your legs into that lotus position. You might notice this is easier than it was from the beginning. And again, bring your index finger in contact with your thumb. Close your eyes for a moment and have a peaceful thought for today. And I hope that your mind has calmed itself. You brought more awareness to your breath. And that you're able to bring some peace to the rest of your day. And at the end of yoga, we always say namaste. And if you are interested in more yoga, of course, you can watch the remaining yoga sessions on our Cardiac Rehab YouTube channel for Newton-Wellesley Hospital.